Hello and welcome to Xena Warrior Podcast. My name is Vera and I'm joined as always by my two sugar-free co-hosts, Katie.
Hello.
And Livy.
Hello. Vera, did I detect a little bit of Boreas there?
I heard it.
What? It was unintentional.
He's just...
Or was it?
He's so embedded now in your psyche. You'll never get rid of him.
You moved the problematic jar in such a way that I'm like really staring at his face right now. So, and it just says problematic.
Just let it inspire you.
Yes. This week we have like a light week. It's an interesting double feature of doubles.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
Double feature.
Double Adam Armis and Nora K. Foster giving us some doubles. Very intriguing placement of both of these episodes.
Yeah, what's up? What's up?
Well, I mean, it's like to give us a break, the audience, because, you know, we just came off of some really intense eps.
I don't need a break.
No, I mean, that's sort of how I feel. We've gone to the trouble of like talking up all this serialization and how awesome and groundbreaking this is for Xena. And now here we have 2 episodes that basically deny any of that ever happened. It shows the pitfalls of trying to do serialized storytelling when you're still a syndicated show with 22 episodes and
yep.
the network may reshuffle them at will. Mm-hmm. So yeah, here's a whole bunch of comedies in which Gabrielle's having a great time. You'd never know anything bad ever happened to her in her whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. And Xena is just so getting over what was going on in China that she leaves this episode entirely.
Right. She needed to process.
Yeah. Well, let's begin with 308, King of Assassins. And as mentioned, it's Armis and Foster who wrote it, and it's directed by Bruce Campbell.
Hey.
That's fun. Now, is this Bruce's directorial debut? Certainly for Xena.
For
it is.
Xena, it is.
It seems like he's directed a whole bunch of Herculeses before this.
Yes.
Which may explain why this episode is so silly. It may have a little too much of the Hercules flavor mixed up in there. But we love you, Bruce.
Yes, we sure do. This one is really a Big Ted episode because it's about the introduction of Joxer's triplet brother Jet. I was going to say twin. I was like, no, there's another.
Yeah. I like that, unlike the Xena clones, where there's literally never an explanation for why there's so many women in ancient Greece who look like Xena, of all the people, to just like, it's not like she's generic looking, and a lot of people could be mistaken for her. Like, she's kind of like impossible to forget.
Yes.
But like here, he just has identical twin brothers, and that's why there's the confusion.
Was Jet mentioned before?
No, I don't think so. I think there was just talk of Joxer having a warlord family.
Yeah. So I guess
think he
it's
mentioned
implied.
his dad before.
Well, yeah, for sure the dad is. And he's like the black sheep. Do we have the summary for what this episode from TV Guide?
Yeah, I kind of need it.
The plot is really confusing.
Yeah.
It's one of those plots where it's really thin, but then there's also a lot of it.
Yeah.
And none of it makes any sense.
Probably, like, that's a byproduct of it being so thin.
Yeah, if you add as much incident into it as possible, like, people will hopefully be distracted from how nonsensical it is.
Yeah.
But then again, when Xena returns to the story in the last act, and she hears like what they've been up to, she immediately points out all the plot holes, which made me kind of uncomfortable. I was like, the episode isn't supposed to tell us that it makes no sense and that everybody in it is stupid, because you know, otherwise you could blame the writers, but now I have to blame Gabrielle, because I'm like, yeah, she came up with this stupid ass plan, and Xena immediately saw right through it.
Well, she's still really rusty at this whole doing what Xena does.
Yeah, this isn't her A game.
Yeah.
Okay, so TV Guide describes the plot of the episode as follows. Gabrielle, Joxer, and Autolycus sneak into a palace to thwart an assassination attempt by Joxer's evil look-alike brother, Jet. The intended victim, dun dun dun, Cleopatra.
Whoa.
25, 25.
Ah,
Sue.
I see what you did there.
Is that the reason why Gina Torres couldn't be Cleopatra again on this program?
I assume so.
Because bummer.
This is her audition for
I mean, I do
Cleopatra.
love Cleopatra 25, but at the same time, she was so good as Cleopatra here.
She is so perfect at just being.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she elevates these scenes that are otherwise really kind of obnoxious.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is such a cool character, and the fact that all she really does is, like, trade double entendres with Autolycus is a little frustrating.
Well, the director of this episode certainly loved when Autolycus was doing some double entendre.
He was like, hey guys,
with
wouldn't it be
Cleo.
cool if I just, hung out with Cleo in a hot tub for, like,
Yeah.
25 minutes?
Let's rewrite this, guys. Let's do this. Yeah. So why don't we talk about Jet? Because this episode's like King of Assassins, which I still kind of read as King of Thieves, which is crazy because I'm like, no, it's not. Is our big introduction to Jet, and the way he's introduced is doing this like crazy
Mission
Impossible gag with
I assume-
Autolycus.
How many years reference?
Couple
In
years.
between? Few years. So it's like
Yeah.
not even like super timely.
No.
I was like, oh, a timely reference. And I was like,
It's
I don't
just-
even
yeah.
think it's that timely.
It's like it's timely for the 90s.
I
Yeah.
feel like that describes this episode to a T. Like, its comedy is, like, kind of its time, but, like, a few years too late.
So yeah, he needs Autolycus to steal this sword for him, which I found really interesting. Like, you would think that he would have many skills and could do it himself just by like assassinating everyone around the sword.
It's also just a really bad idea if you're an assassin to not work alone. Like, that's a recipe for trouble. I don't know how confident Jet actually is at assassinations. Like everybody else in this episode, he has to be an idiot for its stupid plot to be a plot.
I guess so. I mean, he is from Joxer's family.
Yeah. I do like the reveal in that Mission Impossible scene. They're both, Autolycus and Jet are both masked.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, Jet remains masked. So you're like, oh, this guy's a badass. He wants to commit murder. And Autolycus is like, no, I don't do that. And you're like, oh, this guy's a real badass. And he has this, like Clint Eastwood voice. and then the reveal that it's Ted Raimi under there, I think actually is a very effective reveal. I'm not as crazy about his performance as Jet throughout the rest of the episode. To me, it felt like a bit of a retread from, for him, The Bell Tolls, his kind of hero voice and manner.
It reminded me of that too.
So it didn't feel like new ground in a way that was exciting. And that's what you want when you have your actor playing dual roles. You want it to be like, oh, wow, he can do this too. Whereas here you're like, yep, okay. But yeah, that first moment when it turns out to be him did pack a punch.
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to ask you guys what you felt about Jet, like, overall, because, like, he's very different from Joxer, but was it a successful portrayal of, like, the most intense assassin in the land?
The king.
Yeah. I personally had problems kind of getting past the fact that this is Ted Raimi.
Oh.
And, like,
Aw, Ted.
I did not believe when Autolycus was legit frightened of him. Even though he saw him like murder someone right in front of him, I still didn't really believe that he was scarier than, like, I thought Autolycus could take him in a fight. You know what I mean?
Ted isn't very big.
But, we totally bought it for him, the bell tolls. Like, he could beat you up, that guy.
It's true. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. Maybe physically they didn't do enough to, like, make him... Like, we talked a lot about the physical performance and for him, the bell tolls.
Yeah.
But here I have less of a sense of the way Jet moves as opposed to Joxer. I mean, obviously he doesn't knock into stuff and fall over, but I feel like that's about it. He's not, like, doing something threatening with his body.
Is it because he's still, like, related to Joxer and therefore can't be full-blown baddie? Like, he still has to be redeemable? Like, they can't kill him.
Well, that is a weird aspect of this episode. He's kind of towing this line. He's a horrible murderer. He talks about, like, his axe murdering. He can't even keep his kills apart. But the episode does kind of give him a happy ending?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of toes the line. Like, he kills someone for threatening Joxer. And you're like, oh, okay, he's not so bad after all. But his dialogue there is, no one gets to hurt my brother but me, which is, like, abusive.
Yeah, but like, he gives him, like, really bad wedgies, you know? It's
Brotherly violence.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure that was not fun to grow up with.
No, I mean, ask Ted, legitimately, apparently, so...
He was the youngest of the Raimi
Yeah.
brothers and got a lot of bullying. Poor little Ted.
Yeah, I do think that they couldn't go full-blown, like, Joxer has these really intense issues where his brother is legitimately a horrible person and he has to take him down in this episode or whatever.
He has to choose between, like, family ties and doing what's right.
Yeah.
That would have been not a comedy episode.
Yes,
I guess,
exactly.
or something
Yeah.
more along the line of dramedy.
Yeah, so I think that's why Jet kind of doesn't fully go 100%, you know, either way, really.
Yeah, they could have done more with it,
Yeah.
I think, for sure. Like, I feel like it could have actually even been more of a Joxer episode. In a way, the Joxer brother stuff was just to kind of have this comedic set piece of, oh, which one is it?
Yeah.
Rather than actually using it to tell a story about Joxer, which maybe would have been more welcome at this point.
The best part, of course, is like when they had to do that thing where they play each other.
Yes.
Like, I loved when Jet had to pretend to be Joxer, and his, like, bad Joxer impression.
It was really bad. Again, a skill you would think an assassin might have, like a little bit of acting.
Yeah.
But no, I did like that moment where I think it's Jet comes into a room and sees Autolycus, and Autolycus is like, Joxer, and he kind of like does a real, just with his body, does this Joxer like flail, and then suddenly snaps back up and is like, nope, it's Jet.
Yeah. Were you attracted to Jet?
No. I know that in the past I have been attracted to Ted Raimi when he's not playing Joxer, especially when he speaks with a French accent and has a pencil
yes.
mustache.
Yeah.
But without the pencil mustache, it just wasn't doing it for me. But I did notice that when Jet pretended to be Joxer, for some reason he was doing a French accent at
That's
first.
Oh my god. And so then suddenly you were like, oh.
A little bit. Yeah,
Whoa,
so
what's this?
Jet as Joxer. Maybe a little.
What if you mentally drew a pencil mustache on Jet? Does that work for you?
It still doesn't quite do it for me. I didn't really like his like leather dungeon master outfit.
Yeah, so that's the thing we should point out, that his outfit is like kind of like biker, black leather, I'm gonna beat you up, I'm the king of assassins kind of dude. And for like plot reasons, Joxer puts on the same exact outfit. Like,
Yeah,
he
which
picks it out.
He just finds at the
Yeah.
mall. He's like in the market for some new clothes. And as we know, he like loves his designer wear. Like, he's so into that.
How much? Yeah, how much did that
I
cost,
bet
you
that was
think?
couture, which probably made him really mad when he saw that Jet had the exact same one. Who wore it better, guys?
Oh boy. Tough call, because they look very similar. I thought that the double, you know, when they had to act against each other was also really good. in
That
this
was a good
episode.
scene. I mean, I just liked props to Bruce on directing that scene. I love that you have Joxer rehearsing his showdown with Jet by staring into a mirror.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
yeah,
so
yeah.
good.
Which, you know, usually would just be like, ha ha ha, he's not really talking to him. But here you were like, oh yeah, that's actually pretty smart of you, Joxer. That's a good way of like psyching yourself up. Stare in the mirror. And of course, like all the psychological like undertones of that. You look in the mirror to confront your violent other self. And then Jet walks out from behind the mirror, which was a very magical effect.
I loved it. Yeah. Well, you mentioned Bruce directing, so maybe we can start talking about Autolycus now and his plot.
He's here.
The sexy plot. So this involves Cleopatra, as sort of mentioned. I didn't understand. Were they in Egypt? They weren't, right?
No.
They were in a place called Miramis.
Okay.
Cleopatra's been thrown out of Egypt
Oh, right,
by her
right.
brother.
That's right. The
whom they mentioned, Ptolemy, very briefly.
It's a
13, right?
historical
Something like that.
Yeah,
thing.
I noted some of the Egyptian context here.
Hit us with some history.
Okay. So Cleopatra comes from the Ptolemy line.
Yeah.
Ptolemy was one of Alexander's generals. So
He got Egypt.
They are basically, colonists in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And they, I'm sure for racist reasons, decide that rather than intermarrying with the Egyptians, they're just going to marry each other, the brothers and sisters in the Ptolemy line. So Cleopatra was married to her brother, her first sibling husband. I thought you might like that phrase, Vera, sibling husband.
Yes.
Was Ptolemy the 13th. And he ran her out of Egypt after she tried to take sole possession of the throne. And the pair later faced off in a civil war. Cleopatra regained the upper hand by teaming with Julius Caesar, still to come. And Ptolemy drowned in the Nile.
Ooh. An accident?
Or was he pushed? And then later she marries her younger brother, Ptolemy the 14th.
Nice. And you can see all of this played out on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I was going to say this is just like the most Lannister-y
It's not
thing.
Lannisters,
Oh, no, I guess that's a
Targaryens. It's
Targaryen.
100% Targaryen.
The Lannisters want to be doing this.
Well, yes, but they're doing it in secret.
So yeah, I think, are supposed to understand that Cleopatra has been thrown out of Egypt by her brother. She is in Greece somewhere looking for a great warrior to hire to bring back to Egypt to help her retake the throne.
And some baddies, meanwhile, hire Jet to murder her.
Yeah, I think Ptolemy somehow swings her personal
Yeah, because it's like the baddies in the episodes are her
her
personal guard.
But yeah, I think they're working for Ptolemy. And they hire Jet to assassinate, which is like, again, it's such a dumb plot. You're her personal guard. Just turn around and kill her. Like, you don't need this guy to sneak into the
you
castle.
need like a third party. He can't be traced back to her brother, I
That's
guess.
silly.
That's how assassination works, Olivia.
Yeah, what
Get
about
with
the whole
it.
idea? This isn't actually my observation. I got it from Whoosh. But they pointed out that there's this whole business about how Jet needs Autolycus to steal the sword.
Yeah.
Because it won't be traced back to anyone. And it's like there's no sword registry in ancient Greece. It's not like they need an unregistered sword.
God. What about the forensics? Yeah.
So
the
weird.
DNA
Like,
samples.
just the weirdest possible plot device, which is you need this particular sword to do it, and it needs to be snuck into her dressing room just because, just in advance, because he can't take it into the castle because they're so good at searching people for weapons, even though you have Gabs and Xena and literally everybody in that castle carrying their weapons. So whatever.
What did you guys think of the look of this castle? I mean, it was really interesting because like as soon as they entered it or that vicinity of the castle, we were definitely like, oh, this is not, Greece, because everybody, I mean, obviously, like, it's all her Egyptian guards and everything that, but, like, immediately, like, the costumes of our actors changed and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like the slow reveal of Jet's target. At first, you just know he's assassinating somebody, and then you see the palace guards who are wearing the Egyptian-style headdresses.
Ten Commandments.
I saw your eyes flick to the coins.
Yeah.
Yeah, just put it in.
Just for all the white people wearing Egyptian headdresses, yes. And then the eyeliner that comes out also. Let's do one for that. I mean, the interiors of this castle all look like, some kind of Vegas casino.
Oh my, you mean like Caesar's Palace? Or
Yeah,
no, what is it? Which
yeah.
one is it? Luxor? That's the Egyptian one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one.
That felt a little problematic too.
What about Cleopatra's room and her decor choices?
Man. Yeah, why does she have just like all these like panther pattern dresses?
It's like
what?
Zebra pelts and like all sorts of just everything crazy. I mean, Vegas is a really good word for it, I think.
Yeah, it's very over the top, which is weird because then you see her and she looks awesome. Like, I don't
because
know.
she's Gina Torres.
Yeah.
Gina Torres as Cleopatra is amazing.
She
like
just rises
amazing.
above all this
So many
trashiness.
points.
Yeah.
For casting,
Yeah, I mean, part of me is like, this is kind of like a spoiler for the next one, but like that's hardly a role. So this is like the better Cleopatra
Right.
portrayal,
Yeah, this is more definitive. I mean, I wish there'd been more of it. Like, I love at the end of the episode when she invites Xena back to Egypt. That's probably the best moment of the episode.
And this is where I go, what kind of Cleopatra episode did I want? I obviously wanted one with Xena and Cleopatra together, not like Xena's off, not in this episode.
Xena's doing press.
Xena's doing press.
Sure. But I did not really want badass Cleopatra to just be hanging out with Bruce Campbell the entire time taking baths.
Yeah. To be fair, they are both great actors in the scene. So it's not like a hardship to watch them act together. It has its charms, but it's also just all they're doing is double entendres and it's very grown.
What about when he's like peeping Tom in the closet
I do
for
not
like ever?
Like that. I mean, I wonder if this is the kind of comedy that's dated a little bit. The double entendres, those are always going to be gold.
Sure.
Especially when you do 20 of them in a row. That's still funny. But I think modern sensibility is such that when you see a guy who's just like in a woman's room, perving on her and being like, there's a word for people like me. Lucky. It's just not appealing to me. I don't laugh at that guy being like, that lovable rake. Look at him getting up to some stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just like, ew.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that, at least in that sense, we have grown over 20 years. At least we have that.
Yeah, the pair of these episodes, obviously written by the same people. I don't know. It's just I feel like the farcical humor in both lends itself to just the gender politics are disappointing, especially coming after so many amazing episodes. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think they're a little better in Warrior Priestess Tramp.
Yeah, a little. Yeah,
there's some interesting stuff about kind of sexual mores going on there, which makes sense because it's another episode about Meg. It's kind of a sequel to the previous one, which was also about that. But yeah, here it just feels a bit like Cleopatra, famous, awesome war, she was a war general. She's fascinating. And they kind of just make her be a hot lady in a bath, which is not really the most interesting angle to play here. And I don't know. Autolycus, this is, I would say, not the most memorable outing for him. The fact that he does spend most of it hanging out in her room with her and just seems to forget the main plot, and that's the joke. The joke is just that nobody is that committed to saving this woman's life to actually do anything. It's puzzling. I almost wanted her to turn around at the end and yell at everybody, being like, geez, guys, why didn't anyone just come to me and tell me what was going on? Poor Cleo. You deserve better, girl.
She did, yeah. She deserved Xena.
But yeah, their reaction when she's like, I would host you guys in Egypt and it would be the greatest thing anyone had ever seen. And Xena just looks so starstruck. It's so cute. She and Gabs exchange this little look, just being like, squeeze.
But does this imply that she wants Xena to get rid of her brother for her so she can take over Egypt again?
Yes, that's what she said. That's how Autolycus gets into her bed, is he says he's negotiating on behalf of Xena.
Oh, okay.
And Cleopatra's like, oh yeah, tell me more. I want Xena to fight for me. And you're like, yes, so do we.
Well, we mentioned that Xena is not in this episode. And we have Gabrielle's kind of standing in for her.
I'll be the Xena.
Yeah. So there's some fun moments with that.
Sure. I mean, she is committed, Renee. Clearly.
She's always committed.
Funny. I think, again, where we were saying where these episodes fall in the Rift arc and stuff, it's just this one in particular, it's they kind of, at the end of the debts, they're sort of in a place where they're hanging out. They can hang out and talk to each other. There's still the secrets and whatnot, but
do they sleep in the same bedroll?
I don't know. And the next episode is fine, but this one, you sort of feel like the stuff that Gabrielle is doing just doesn't fit. like where we are. Like just it feels earlier. Like I'm gonna do everything Xena would do. What would Xena
badly,
do?
yeah.
And we're like, yeah. And I just feel like that's not where she is right now as a person. So it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it was. I think I noticed that on Whoosh, they have their best episodes of Xena as voted by the fans, and they have their worst. This episode is on the list for worst episodes, which I think
How many are there
undeserved.
for worst?
There are 12. It's number 11. So there are 10
Almost.
episodes.
What's
worse.
12? Have we gotten there yet?
Oh, we haven't gotten there.
Okay.
So, yeah, in fact, we haven't gotten to almost any of the others except for Ulysses. Yeah. Which should be number 1. But
Well, certainly what is number 1 should not be, but
Yeah.
I'm just getting ahead of myself.
yeah, so getting ahead of yourself. But it seems to me like that probably the reason, or one of the major reasons that it's on that list in the first place, is that Gabrielle, in the middle of the Rift arc, is kind of being portrayed as an idiot.
Yeah.
It just feels so insulting in a way that you've just watched the character go through something and grow and become this, far greater in stature, and then here she is knocking herself out with a fake chakra.
I mean, it is adorable.
Hey, I love that part. She yas and throws the bowl.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Oh my god, the guard's reaction when she puts the fake pinch on him.
So good.
Which is, you remember she did back in 10 Little Warlords. She put when she was under the insane with rage spell that everyone's afflicted with in that episode.
Right.
She puts the pinch on a bartender. So here she is trying that again because it worked so well last time on this prison guard, and he's speaking in this weird southern accent.
Oh, right.
She's like, yeah, you have 30 seconds to live, and he's like, no, I seem to be fine. Don't do that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
This guy wins the MVP award for the episode.
It's
This
true.
is just such an odd choice.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But in a way, his reaction is indicative of the problems here, in that he treats her like this little girl goofing off in kindergarten, and you're like, no, Gabrielle should be better than this.
Yeah.
And often you have episodes like for him, The Bell Tolls, where Joxer is getting up to ridiculous amounts of trouble, and Gabrielle is sort of the only sane person in the room. So I think that dynamic really works for her, even though she doesn't get to have as much fun as the others. Seeing her as another one of the zanies is just weird. It just doesn't feel in character for her at this point.
I think that would seem to be a big complaint on the internet about any of the Xenolite episodes from this forward, where people were saying that there's a tendency to just make Gabrielle completely lose her mind and become an idiot when Xena's not around, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Doesn't make any sense.
No.
I mean, it's a comedy episode, so I understand how they're really regressing everyone just to be funny.
And it is, I mean, this is why I don't think it belongs on the list. It is funny. It's not like I sat there scoffing when Gabrielle's doing this nonsense. I was like, hee 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 hee. But you do have to kind of cut off the part of your brain that's thinking about the rift and the place these stories occupy.
When Jox was like, King Gregor was killed by a baby. Don't think about Hope
don't
doing
think about murderous babies.
Don't think about murderous babies.
Yeah. I did though how she was so determined to play the role of someone from a circus, the Ragulian Sisters Circus. That was a good lie that she was really excited about.
I mean, there's lots of lines. Maybe we can do a best worst when we're done with the episode.
Best worst lines.
There's just so
from
many
episodes.
lines. You know what I mean? They're all funny. There's all funny.
Yeah.
I think I know which one you think is worse.
Oh yeah.
That one about Gabrielle being grabbed more times than the Golden Fleece.
Oh yeah.
Well, but I loved how they got into the castle originally, where he had the guard. Oh no, he had Joxer grab her butt. And
put
he's
your hand out like you're grabbing something. Yeah.
Did you just fondle this woman's behind?
Behind.
I like that.
I liked any business transaction requires witnesses, says Autolycus, and Cleopatra says, Kanke. That was a pretty good one. And great. That was the moment when you really were like, oh my god, I love you, Gina Torres.
Yeah. I mean, she was there. It was great. What about Cleo's maid named Melissa? That was my favorite part of this episode.
Why is Cleo have a maid? Is Melissa an Egyptian name? Now we're going to do some research and realize that Melissa is Egyptian. But I have no idea
I
why
don't think so.
her maid was named Melissa.
I think it's because it's funny. So Gabrielle, in this episode, did her best. But we still needed Xena to come back and solve
Kind of
everything,
set
right?
everything right.
Where did she go?
She went to deal with a warlord. It's all set up in the very first scene. Like, I mean, none of it makes any sense. It kind of just drops you into it and, like, throws all these names at you. And you're just like, who? What episode is this? What's
Yeah,
happening?
Jox was like in the stocks thing, and she's like, "Tell
Right.
Gabrielle I'm going to Pars."
To deal with the limpies against the marsh bids. I don't know.
The limpids.
Limpids.
I
That's
don't know.
so much
It's like,
better.
what? I was already lost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she just goes off and does something that honestly sounds kind of boring.
Okay,
So
but then
maybe
she
it's
comes
good
back.
we missed it. Yeah, she comes back right at the end. I mean, it's nice to see her when she returns, and she and Jet have like a kung fu fight.
Yes.
But she wiped the floor with him. He wasn't.
This is what I
a
mean.
threat.
I'm like, I just
Yeah.
don't believe that this guy is so dangerous, like, whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I think in the end they didn't want him to be because they wanted to
Yeah.
kind of have that sweet moment with him and Joxer. He had to kind of not actually be that threatening.
Yeah, and then he's like, I'm going to prison in Miramas.
With Dad.
Yeah, it gives me a reason to catch up with Dad, which is funny. Like, yeah.
It made me kind of want to see the rest of the family, not the
Yes.
brothers. I mean, they're teasing the
mom.
existence of Jace in this episode, but I want to see the parents. Yeah.
Yes.
I kind of, would have pitched this, I guess, if I were in the writer's room, but I'd like that dad to turn out to be a real asshole, to be a big bad for a season. That could have been interesting.
A season?
Yeah, I'd like him to
No
be a
thanks.
recurring villain.
No thanks to Jaxter's family being, like, the point of an entire season.
I just think it's a good
It
way.
could be an
of
episode.
Giving Jaxer some more humanity. I mean, I think this is what this episode was trying to be about in its slightly inept, absent-minded way, which was, Jaxer, does he have that capability? Could he actually be like a member of his own family, or is he something else?
Was it also trying to answer Autolycus's question, no, in a general sense or in a grand sense? Why is he here?
Yeah, why is he here? Yeah, Autolycus was speaking for the fandom a bit there. But I mean, at this point, I do understand why Jaxer's there. I like the character.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I like that he could be telling this different version of, how violence works in this
Yes.
society. That he's someone who just was raised with it. Talk about nature versus nurture. Yeah. He was like there in this household where that's all you did, and he comes out of it not being that, So, compare that with Hope, who's born evil, baby. But I don't
Or
think...
is she?
Or is she? I don't think this episode really explores any of those issues. Like, they're there, it kind of pays lip service to it. Like, him in the stocks at the beginning being like, violence is in my blood, Xena.
Yeah.
Like, it could easily be me. And you're like, oh, so Jet's like his dark side. How juicy. But no, it just, I don't know. It just, none of that is actually dramatic.
Yeah, it's good on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that idea, for sure.
It's great. I do think that, like, normally I feel like Jaxer would just be the way that he is, but the fact that they gave him this backstory and followed up on it, I mean, without the parents, like, the parents never appear, but you certainly hear a lot about him, like, you find out that his song was something that his mom sang.
Yeah,
like the
to
Jaxer
make
song.
fun of him.
No, it wasn't to make fun of him.
I
It was
thought so.
no, it was to protect. Like it was about how the other kids are like making fun of him.
Oh,
I mean,
somehow
that's what
the
I
fact
thought.
that it was like Jaxer, the tidy,
Like, that
never
was
goes
supposed to-
outside.
No, his mom was like, I think,
Trying to
like a
protect
nice
him
lady
from the
yeah.
others. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's what it was.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like the other time she's been brought up, that's been
Yeah.
the case. But like here, I don't know. Her song seemed a little mean spirited.
Why did
to
she
me,
want
but
him
maybe
to-
that's Jet was
It was-
inserting some lyrics.
Yeah,
into
I
it.
think
Yeah.
Jet was making fun of it, and he didn't understand that it was this nice song meant to
see.
comfort Jaxer because
So
everybody
maybe
made
she
fun
actually
of
was
him.
singing it with the original lyrics, like to make him feel better. Jaxer, the mighty.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think that there's a lot of depth that you get for Jaxer in these family episodes, even if they're, weak on plot and whatever. And
Yeah,
just
and
like a
played
filler
sort of more
episode.
for comedy than
Yeah.
for the actual kind of dramatic possibilities of what growing up as a warlord kid would be like.
But like weirdly, I mean, I feel like you get more depth about his childhood than you get Gabrielle.
Yeah, no,
and
you
that's
totally
crazy.
do.
And that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know his parents way more than hers.
Vera's so mad now, you guys. She's
so mad.
She's red with rage.
I'm that emoji. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about in this episode?
I don't know. Well, I didn't give my favorite line part of this thing.
Sure.
Do it.
Which
Let's hear it.
is not, it's part sight gag, part line, which was when Joxer and Gabrielle are in the little prison together, and she's like, "Where does it hurt?" At him, and he's like, "Right here," and points to his forehead, and then she flicks him in the face. It's just a good beat. It's just a good beat.
Yeah.
I like it. Just a flick.
We haven't talked about it very much, but probably my favorite aspect of the episode is the comedy rapport between Bruce Campbell and Ted Raimi.
Yeah.
Which, like, this is the first time those two characters have appeared together, and they're so much fun.
Yeah.
I was reading quotes from Bruce and Ted about how, like, Bruce has known Ted since he was 9 years old. So, like, this is, it's just, like, such a comfortable relationship. And they're both just such funny people in such specific ways that, like, it's fun to see them together, even if it's not the greatest episode.
Yeah. You wish it was a great episode because, like, they're great to watch. And he's great to watch with Gina Torres. Like, there's so many great actors around doing great things.
I mean, Bruce Campbell is
like,
just great to watch.
Yeah.
He's great with everyone.
This is one of those things where it's like, I don't, like, hate this episode. I don't really need it to be like the number 11 worst.
Yeah, I don't
I don't love it either. I wish it was just like a little bit more. Like, it has so many good ideas in it. But I wish it was just more than a string of innuendos and stuff.
Did we think that he did a good job with his directing?
Yeah, it's okay.
Sure.
I mean,
Like,
I think
it's fun. Yeah.
the script is the main trouble, so I feel like he probably did what he could, but again, I don't know. I do feel like it's maybe a little too Hercules for me.
And we all know they do love the slapstick, the Bruce and the Raimis and
Right.
etc. Like, so it's it's very like up his alley in the vein. He's no stranger to Doubles, the Army of Darkness. And fun stuff.
Yeah, and he did a really good
that.
job with directing that, I thought.
Yeah. So like, he did a good job, and I love Bruce.
Well, I think that wraps it up for this one, and we'll talk about the next doubles next. Okay, 309, Warrior Priestess Tramp, written by Armis and Foster and directed by Robert Ginty.
Robert Ginty is a new director for Xena. This is his only episode. He was formerly an actor. He starred in a lot of kind of pulpy action movies, including this one, The Exterminator, kind of a vengeance movie.
So he wasn't in any of the Hercules or anything like that?
No, not that I saw, but I feel like I can see the Raimis being a fan of his work and checking him out.
Well, Lucy was missing from her previous episode, so they made up for it.
Yeah, they did.
She's in this one thrice over.
Yeah, they've almost wallpapered the scenes of Lucy's.
Not that I'm complaining. I absolutely love it.
This is actually the first episode that they shot in season 3, much as Warrior Princess Tramp was the first episode they shot in season 2. I think that's a nice tradition for the show.
It's because they need more pre-production time because of all the like double business.
Oh, I guess that
which is weird because then does that mean that the one we just talked about, which I can't remember, King of Assassins, was that
well, they're rarely
the next one?
Yeah, I think it's less complicated. They probably
because 2
weren't there. Yeah, but I feel like they're in very few scenes together, so you don't have to do that much trick photography and compositing and stuff. Yeah, I like the idea that everybody comes back from their winter break and it's like, woo, we're gonna start shooting Xena with like these hilarious sex robs.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody does seem overflowing with kind of joy. So I like to think that's because they've been united.
Yeah, Lucy has an entire summer to come up with her new character.
Also, Lucy's hair looks really good this episode. I wonder if she just got her hair cut or something. Just like the bangs, it just all looked very
the
very
season
soft
premiere
and
hair.
pretty. Yeah,
it's
the season premiere hair.
Even
I guess.
though this wasn't season premiere, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
What's our TV guide promo for this episode?
They actually had a lot to say about this episode. It must have been one of those little blurbs, like the pop-out blurbs, not like in the regular section of TV Guide, but like picture of Lucy and then this written underneath it. Lucy Lawless isn't exactly suffering from a lack of exposure.
Which makes it seem like, what, she's naked in this one?
I don't know if they intended the double entendre. Let's pretend they did. People named her one of its 25 most intriguing people. And TV Guide listed her among the performers of the year. What's more, the producers of Xena are making sure she gets even more exposure.
Oh my God.
With this week's show, the first of several new episodes. So this must have been the first one after Christmas. Lawless is starring as the warrior princess and playing two Xena lookalikes. First, there's Leah, a pious priestess of the virgin goddess Hestia. Leah's in trouble with some bad guys at Hestia's temple, and Xena and Gabrielle want to help her. Complicating matters, a less than pious lookalike named Meg, the operator of a bordello. It's a pretty good summary.
Yeah. It's really awesome how much exposure Lucy got. Like, it's kind of insane to think about it nowadays, just because I feel like, I don't know, a show like this nowadays, would you make like a people list like this? Like, I don't think so. There's so much content now,
Maybe.
So it's crazy.
There was less to compete with. But,
she totally deserves it, obviously.
I think it's great that she's on the 25 most intriguing people list.
Yeah.
Because she is intriguing. She's a fascinating person.
Yeah, totally. Well, this episode begins with some goons fighting in a courtyard, and Xena enters the scene. So we know she's in this one.
I don't know. She was the first thing
That's
we saw
true. You're
in
right.
the opening
You're
episode.
Right. Right. So she might leave. She's asking for this like head goon, Dexon, and she's imploring about she wants him to give up his wicked ways.
Yeah, she has this whole speech about giving up violence and how it's the worst thing in the world. And on the one hand, you're like, yeah, I guess I can see Xena doing this. These aren't like thoughts she hasn't had. But at the same time, you're like, what?
Yeah.
This isn't usually her way of going about doing things.
No, but we're like, okay, maybe she's a new tactic here. She throws down her sword.
Yeah, she throws down her sword, and then the goon is like, yeah, but what about that breast dagger you got under there? So then she takes off her armor as well.
Yeah, she starts stripping.
I love this moment. It actually reminded me a bit of Sins of the Past again. This like self-destructive, like I strip myself. But doing it in front of all these men obviously had this weird other dimension.
That TV guy promo was right. She is getting more exposure right
so
here.
Much exposure.
Right here. Is she speaking weird already?
My first note is her fucking voice, LMAO. It's the first thing I wrote down.
I wrote Daffy Duck, question mark.
Is this Daffy Duck's accent?
Doesn't he have a lisp?
It's the other one.
Oh, Porky Pig.
No. Porky, well, I'm sure. Whatever Porky Pig is. What's the one who's the hunter? Wabbits.
Oh, you're right. Elmore Fudd.
That one.
Yeah, it's an Elmore Fudd accent.
Yeah.
We got there in the end.
So this is actually a speech impediment called rhoticism.
Oh.
Yeah, which is a form where you can't like pronounce your R's correctly, which I just remembered that I had, but in Russian, because my first language was Russian, and I couldn't pronounce the rolled R's. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember this story.
My grandmother fixed that for me by
How'd she do that?
making me say the word for crow, which has a really intense R, and some other words repeatedly until I got it.
You have to say it now.
What?
Now you have to say it.
Varona.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Sexy.
Yeah, because previously I would say like Varona, like with like a weird R.
Little
yeah.
Vera.
My little brother actually had the same speech impediment, but in English. And my sister and I would torment him by trying to make him say Pride and Prejudice.
Oh my God.
Because we were little bitches who like tormented him via Jane Austen, because that added to our pretentiousness.
Well, you should have
Did
used
it
the
work?
word warrior.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
this is a good one
Oh,
for
yeah.
Lucy doing this accent.
Yeah. So this speech impediment gets used in comedy a lot because it makes the character sound childish. Because that's like a very common thing for children, not to be able to say the R's like that.
It's an odd character trait, though, for this priestess. Like, it's a strange choice.
Listen, Lucy was on vacation during hiatus. Was like, what if this?
We do another Xena clone, but get this.
This is not Xena via this weird accent that she has.
Right. But Gabrielle doesn't know that
Gabrielle
while
doesn't
she's
know
being
that.
burned at the stake.
That is actually a really upsetting scene, I thought. Because she thinks it's a test.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do like this sequence because it's upsetting, but, like, I love how frustrated Gabrielle is because she does think it's a test. And I feel like she isn't worried about Xena, really, because in her head, this is, like, all for her, and that Xena will not burn herself to death, like, in just trying to, like, test her, even if she, like, fails at whatever she's trying to do. But, like, all of her attempts to help are quite amusing.
And so she's starting to get burned, and Gabrielle decides it's another test day, and begrudgingly decides to rescue her via, like, the seesaw situation where she would throw a bunch of water at the burning wood, but, like, she's not heavy enough on the other side.
Some good bouncing.
So she tricks the blacksmith, who's like a 300-pound man, to, like, attack her, and he falls on that, and that thing comes flying in and puts the fire out. There's a comedy here.
Yeah,
We
I
laughed.
like that Gabrielle has been conditioned to think that, she's gotta save the day in, like, the most indirect manner possible. Like, she needs to, like, hit a thing that hits a thing that flies through the air, because that's how Xena would do it. Here's that, done well. Here's Gabrielle being the Xena in a way that feels true to her character, as opposed to the last time where she just failed so spectacularly.
Precisely.
So Gabrielle rescues Xena, and in the alley, she kind of realizes maybe it's not Xena.
Yeah, I love this. I love that, like, when it strikes her that this might not be Xena, she has to go through a humongous list
I loved it.
of stuff.
Shows you how many different kinds of performances Lucy has done.
But that her first go-to wasn't the actual, like, Xena lookalikes, that it was Callisto in Xena's body again. Come back to drive her insane.
Well, to be fair, like, burning herself at the stake does seem like a messed up thing Callisto would do more than it's something, say, Meg would do.
Sure.
But yeah, it's funny how Gabrielle's manner changes for each one. How she's first like, Callisto, and then she's like, oh, Princess Diana, curtsy. And then, oh, hey, Meg.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of goes through the line of how should I behave with you. It also reminded me of Buffy, that I think it's Intervention with the Buffy bot, where they first go through all the various other kinds of things it could be. Like, she could be possessed. Like, Xander's like, there's two Buffys. I get it. And, like, finally they figure it out.
You couldn't tell me apart from a robot.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's the same kind of thing where the show's kind of winking at you, being like, yes, we've done plots like this before. Go with it.
So this is Leah, head priestess of the Temple of Hestia.
And she is a true believer.
Yes. So, I mean, Leah is church lady from SNL.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's what she is. That's definitely what they intended to do. But, like, you can really hear it when she's kind of, like, preaching at Xena and Gabrielle in, like, the campfire scene, I believe. But I think that's really funny that, they did church lady.
The accent is just so confusing, though. Like, I get the speech impediment, but then she's, like, sort of British?
Yeah, sometimes it comes out a little British.
It's weird, and sometimes it sounds more like hippy-dippy, kind of free love.
Yeah.
Which is totally wrong for the character, but maybe more in line with who Lucy is.
Gabrielle then brings Leah
Yes.
to meet Xena. And so my favorite thing about Lucy playing all these characters, I think, is, and especially in this episode, the way she plays Xena.
Yes.
Because Xena becomes extra Xena.
Extra Xena. She's always like super grumpy Xena whenever there's something. She's like super cool, like sitting there sharpening her sword with a stone.
It makes sense, right? Because you're seeing the whole spectrum of kind of the different women Lucy can be. So I feel like it means she has to kind of push Xena back to like the far end of Butch. Like she has to be really like, oh, hey guys. I'm just sharpening my sword.
Yo, she's a cool girl, yeah. So she was like, oh yeah, I was cut up with Zagreus.
I was so happy to hear the Zagreus reference. One of our favorite goons.
Yeah,
maybe my
absolutely.
favorite goon to go with Theodorus, your favorite goon,
Yeah,
Vera.
I do love me a Zagreus.
I don't have a favorite goon. I'll have to find one.
You have to get one, yeah. So that's what she's like, oh, that's why I wasn't in town with you.
Sure, Xena.
And Gabrielle wants to introduce, who she found and needs Xena to play along, which was a really great thing because Xena just did not want to do it.
Yeah, Gabrielle wants her to just play along for once and just get that great, like, all right, fine. Gee, Gabrielle. Who is it? So good.
Super extra sarcastic, yeah. So they meet Leah.
Leah's totally freaked out. Gabrielle has not told her that she looks exactly like Xena Warrior Princess. And Xena goes through the same exact thing. Oh, Princess Diana. Oh, Meg. Oh, who?
Yeah. I liked how, happy she was to see, Diana. Like, she was
They're
like,
friends.
yeah.
I think above Meg, Diana and Xena are friends. And
Well,
there was that episode where she went off to help Diana with something.
I was going to say, like, Kingy is always, like, calling Xena for, like, personal security for his parties or whatever. And
so I
Xena's,
think
like,
they
fine
hang
with
out
it.
at this point. They probably gossip. They're friends. Xena looks Leah up and down and kind of, like, circles her. And I wrote in my notes, Xena is totally going to have sex with Leah.
Oh my goodness.
She's gonna...
It was just such a weird moment between them.
Not make her be a virgin anymore?
Yeah, there was such a kind of like, oh, I see. Virgin Leah.
I missed that. I'll have to go back.
Okay, well, I mean, Leah kind of explains her whole thing where she cast the Hestian stones, which say the words of Hestia, and like it took everything as a sign that, she needs to go to town and preach against this like warlord. And she just found this costume in her closet.
She's dressed exactly like Xena, which as up till now is unexplained. Like, why is she wearing this outfit? But it just appeared magically in her closet.
So she thinks, oh, I'll wear this. I will confront a warlord looking like a warrior, a warrior.
Yeah, a warrior.
So I like that detail, that Leah kind of enters this plot not as somebody pretending to be Xena a la Diana or Meg, but just as somebody who happens to be wearing this outfit and getting into trouble.
So she's extremely scandalized by basically the lives of Xena and Gabrielle, especially finding out that they're not virgins.
Oh.
She calls them heathens and infidels, wanton strumpets, my favorite, women of questionable virtue.
Yeah, this was like the massive church lady bit right here.
I mean, it's great. I do think, like, this is a really clever substitute for Diana, who's getting a little kind of staid and tired. Like, she's married, she has her baby, she's kind of like, she's loosened up a bit. I don't know how interesting she is as a foil for Xena and Meg. But, like, Leah is the very opposite of Meg.
Yes.
It's very funny to put somebody who's, like, such a prude in the same room with Meg. And also, you realize, with Xena and Gabrielle, the fact that their lives would be very scandalous.
Would they?
For this crazy
women traveling on their
Yeah.
own. They both had some sex and just kind of going around, possibly
I have
open
my
to
ancient
having more
Greece joke
sex.
that I make all the time, but I actually need to like look up more ancient Greek facts.
What's your ancient Greek joke?
I don't know, just always like, everything is fine.
Oh, in ancient Greece. Yeah. But Gabrielle's like, I was married at the time.
Yeah, the lack of subtext in this scene is a bummer and a half.
It is. Do you think maybe they like got scared of having a church lady kind of judging lesbianism? Is that
Maybe.
something they...
I don't know. I just think maybe they were just writing this.
I think it was supposed to be like the first level of the joke, which is, you know, this lady doesn't even think beyond a man and a woman being together, and that's how you lose your virginity and whatnot.
That's true. But it would have been nice for Gabrielle to be like, yeah, I'm not a virgin. No details, just
But
still
Right, like it
not.
doesn't play that
I mean,
way
to be
in the
fair-
scene. Like Gabrielle just immediately is like, I was married
I've
at the
literally
time.
never had sex since.
Like that was the only
Well,
just that one time.
blah time.
They were talking about virginity, though.
I know, they
Like,
were.
that was her
Yeah.
first time.
I guess so. That could be if you want to interpret the line.
Yeah.
Like, you
That's
wanna-
how I
If you want to
honestly
twist
did.
it around, yeah.
Because it was
like,
specifically about virginity. It
Yeah.
wasn't about, like, what they're
All
doing
right,
right
girl.
now.
Yeah, that can work.
We'll
that
take
works.
it.
That works.
I do love her. I was married at the time. Were you?
I know,
Xena,
yeah.
And Xena looks so like, what? Never married Barias, which, good job, Xena. Do
I
not
don't-
marry Barias.
Do you think Barias is her first?
No.
Hells no. We don't know that one.
Anyway,
She slept with Caesar.
What about before that?
I'm sure she slept with people before Caesar.
I don't think we know who
She
is
gives
her
a big
first.
speech about her seductive charms, which sounds
Exactly.
completely overblown. So maybe Caesar was her first.
well, anyway, thank you for fixing that, Vera, because I didn't even think about her just talking about like her virginity specifically.
Yeah, I didn't see that scene in any other way, though. So, like,
No, it's
I
a
never
good point. Yeah.
confused it.
Good job,
otherwise.
Vera.
You're welcome,
Yeah.
guys.
Gabs didn't have sex before marriage, so she actually is a very good girl.
It's still weird for Leah somehow. She's like, all sex is bad.
Yeah. Well, Gab says you don't have to be a virgin to be virtuous, which obviously is going to be the thesis statement of the episode.
Keep telling yourself that, dear. I thought she was super British.
Sometimes maybe she sounded a little bit like Lucy's Julia Child impression from Solstice Carol. Do you guys remember
Oh,
that?
yeah,
It was
yeah.
really funny. But yeah, I feel like a little Julia is creeping into this.
By the way, I never mentioned this in our mailbag episode, but her Julia Child would totally come back in the fake Great British Bake Off episode.
You're
for
right.
sure. Like, it would have to.
Yeah, obviously. She'd do the whole thing as Julia Child. That's good.
Okay, so Xena thinks that someone's using Leah's intense blind devotion to maybe do her harm. And she's like, I'm going to find out who this is.
Punch him.
Yeah, punch him right in their face.
So then we cut to the temple, and Gabs is stopped at the door for not being a virgin. So she's just really taking a hit this episode. Everybody's just like, you whore.
I loved it.
But they have fun hoods.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yes.
sneaking in some fun hoods.
I always love a good hood.
Yeah, I think definitely Gabrielle's robe is the same one she was wearing in the debt. So this is her fun new robe she wears sometimes.
So at the temple, though, Leah is already there performing the ceremony.
How is this possible?
And she's like real intense about it because she's not Leah, she is Meg.
And I love
Right.
how fully formed Meg is that you just immediately recognize her.
Oh, man.
You see just
Yeah.
the way Lucy's face is set, and like you hear the voice, and you're like, yeah, like we know this isn't a new one. This is Meg.
I love Meg.
And Gabrielle's like, that's Meg. And Xena's like, well, it sure ain't no virgin. Oh, Lucy.
Oh boy.
Slut shaming Meg.
I know.
Jeez.
Meg.
Meg owns a tavern down the street, which I thought was really interesting because I just feel like she moved specifically to be in this episode with her tavern.
Yeah, I don't know. And is
She
now.
was supposed to be King Leos's cook. That's where we left her.
Yeah, that's right. And that seems like it's a while away, or, you know.
Maybe she,
sort of
she
away.
worked her way up there. She saved some money and became a small business owner.
I mean, clearly, okay, sure, all right. So it's not like she's fallen back.
No, I don't
On
think so.
hard ways.
No, I mean,
She owns the tavern. It's
she-
her tavern.
Yeah, she's managing it. She's doing a good job. Yeah. And what's wrong with it? What's wrong with operating a bordello?
Did you learn
Nothing.
to read?
There's some like inner judgment in the episode, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with what she's
I mean, I think
up to.
there might be some judgment in the episode from certain characters.
Yes.
But when you actually cut to the bordello and see the ladies working there. Everybody seems really happy to be there. It seems like
it's
a great place.
Yeah, they totally got it under control.
Yeah.
Do you guys think this episode was kind of like conceived? They just did like a Hestian Virgin one not too long ago. So I'm like, do you think they were like, oh,
at the same time
we can have like a character, you know, maybe.
Yeah, well,
like
Comedy of Eros, right?
Yeah.
That was the Hestian Virgins. Hestian Virgins are funny. And, you know, Comedy of Eros is the previous sex comedy that Xena did. So I just feel like having virgins around like is funny for Xena.
They put a pin in that one. Yeah. And here it is.
Yeah, and here we have, you know, virgins in their temple, and then you have sex workers in their bordello.
Down the street. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's funny that you're cutting between these two spaces, like these polar opposites. Yeah.
Actually, that's an interesting thing. You think that's like a cool, like, safety precaution? Like, so, you know, goons aren't drawn to the Hestian temple because they can just go to this bordello.
Maybe. You're right. So it's in the temple's best interest. They're like, can we get the bordello a little closer to us, please?
So Xena wants to send Leah to Meg's tavern and disguise her as Meg because that'll protect her.
Seems like a good plan.
Yeah.
But I think Xena has an ulterior motive, which is totally, I'm going to teach this girl a lesson. I don't think Xena liked being called a whore.
Oh, man. What did you guys think of the Meg-Xena reunion?
Oh, I love the running gag in this episode where Xena is always recognized by doing some kind of feat of strength, and it's always like followed by "Hello, Xena," or like "Hi, Xena."
Well, especially because all the, you know, Leah and Meg are women that other people keep trying to take advantage of and boss around, and then when they realize they're talking to Xena, they almost have to, you know, the alpha's in the room, quick, you know?
Yeah.
So I love that the Hello Xena always has a bit of, like, disappointment in it. Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's really funny to see Meg do it. Hello, Xena. Don't crush my fist.
So Xena gets the scoop from Meg about, like, well, what the hell's going on. And apparently this guy, Baelius, a.k.a. Bailey.
That's such a Meg thing. I love that every episode she has to call the villain by some slightly emasculating nickname.
He came to her with like the sob story about how the, you know, head priestess of the Hestian temple had disappeared and he needs her to like fill in.
Which immediately tells us, the viewers, that Baelius masterminded the whole thing. It just sounds real shifty.
My question is, I mean, he's posing as like this priest, but like, does the Hestian temple have like male priests hanging out when they have a high priestess?
It seems like a bad idea.
I feel like it shouldn't. So already I'm like, this guy doesn't belong.
And they're referred to as the Delians. I was trying to look them up and couldn't really find much about them. There's a city, an island actually, called Delos.
That's an amazing island. I've been there.
Yeah.
It is all artifacts and temples and stuff. It is just like if you're into Greek stones, you should go there.
So they had a lot of cults there. They had a cult for Apollo and Artemis because they were supposedly born there on Delos. But I couldn't see what that had to do with like these anti-Hestian misogynists.
They just created them.
They just kind of spun a map of Greece and went, okay, they're from here.
Yeah, it's like a weird battle of the sexes again. You know, like a religious battle of the sexes.
Yeah, it's like the plot of this episode is not what you're watching it for, but it is, what you see of it is slightly odd because it's doing a bit of like drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yes.
Like, this is upsetting. Mm-hmm. And all this talk about one true religion just kind of triggers me for Dayhawk. I'm just like, no, not Dayhawk again.
Let's talk about Meg's Tavern a little bit. It is a wonderful place. There's some great music happening.
Oh my god. Well, Leah, let's talk about this scene. Joxer is the king of this bordello.
Yeah.
Like, it turns out, is a Podrick, wouldn't you say, Vera?
Oh my goodness. From Game of Thrones.
Wow, Podrick Payne, huh?
Yeah, because, you know, this guy who seems bumbling, he's not a great warrior, but apparently he's very generous in the bedroom.
He's got a big dick. That's Podrick, all right?
Yeah.
So I guess
just check out his shoe size.
Yes.
for his designer shoes.
Oh my god. Yeah. So there's an intense musical number that happens here with the Jaxer song.
I loved it. Yeah. I loved all of the ladies of the bordello.
I mean, I think you were like, Liv, you were like, this is them rehearsing for the bittersweet.
I mean, technically they probably were. Yeah. I mean, this is, again, the first episode they shot of the season, and this is the season with the musical. So, like, musical
They gave
number.
it a shot. If this didn't work out, they'd scrap the entire musical.
I think it worked really well. It also reminded me a little bit of Gaston.
Of course.
Yeah.
I guess
Of
that's
course.
the obvious reference
The tavern
point.
ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
But then Jaxer sees that Gabrielle is there, and this is some of the creepiest shit Jaxer has ever done. I was so grossed out by it.
Yeah.
That he doesn't ask questions as to, like, why she's there, but is just, like, immediately thinking, like, ooh, I need to pay to kiss Gabrielle.
Yeah, he just thinks that she works there. He sees
Yeah.
her and it just
Yeah.
automatically is like, oh, she's working here now. What
Yeah.
has happened?
Yeah,
Like,
but
oh,
he's
but I could-
upset, right? He's like, oh no, the woman I love is working here.
Because this is a terrible place.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, of course, it's a bordello.
And now I can pay for her affection.
But but that was like, he's like, oh, I'm one business transaction away from kissing the woman I love.
Which is so annoying because he also does seem to still have his thing going with Meg at
Yeah.
the same time and was so non-judgmental about her in the previous episode where they meet.
And in fact, that I think was the moment where Jaxer kind of entered my affections as a character. Because when everybody was slut-shaming Meg, Jaxer was like, this woman's been through some stuff, and she's amazing. And yeah, here he is kind of being like, oh no, she works in Meg's bordello. Like, should I pay to get with that? And you're like, Jaxer!
yeah.
I
And
kind of
also
wanted
later
him.
he calls Meg a tramp, and she punches him in the face. So,
But then he does a heroic thing, and then she loves him again.
yeah, but I don't know.
Guys,
I mean,
this is classic Meg Jaxer.
I guess.
OTP.
R.J. Stewart wrote Warrior Princess Tramp and maybe has a better handle on the Jaxer character whom he introduced to the show. I feel like Armas and Foster are maybe kind of going lowest common denominator with him.
Yeah.
It's not the right choice.
It's just really fascinating because it's like he loves Gabrielle, knows he can never have her. So Meg is like the next best thing. She likes him legitimately, so that's great. And that's who, he gets with. It's just really strange.
I like their little role
But I like
play
Oh
moment
my
when
God.
he thinks Meg is doing like a role play game with him.
Yeah,
That was
because it's Leah.
funny.
Like, I'm a Hestian virgin. And he's like, okay. Sure you are.
But yeah, I mean, I do love the Jaxer Meg relationship, but when you stop for a sec, you're like, she looks just like Xena. What's going on here?
And it's such a weird dichotomy with him in general because he's supposed to be so like innocent about Xena and Gabrielle and not getting it. And then
But
he just
meanwhile,
goes
he's king
and-
of the
Yeah,
bordello.
king of the bordello. It's so weird.
Sometimes you do something for the gag, even though it doesn't make a ton of sense for everything else you see of the character. And he is not smooth with women elsewhere, but I guess maybe the bordello is the place where you don't have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Xena is in the tavern with Meg. That's where the other two Xena clones are during this tavern stuff.
I guess.
Is that where she's like
lost track
dancing
of it.
down the hall?
Yeah,
Or
Meg is doing this
like-
drinky dance.
Oh, she's bored and like does this thing where she sticks her finger in a bottle and gets stuck
Yeah.
there.
There's also, I guess Xena has told her to stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Xena is going to pretend to be Leah. Leah's hiding out pretending to be Meg. Meg doesn't actually have a role. Meg's
Yeah,
role
she's
is to
supposed to
just
stay out
not
of it.
fuck it up.
Yeah.
And
She fucks it up.
Meg fucks it up, obviously. But I love that she's like, what trouble can I get up to? I'm a virgin. And she like kind of spreads her legs out from her dress and like flops back on the bed. And it's a very suggestive moment and made me go like, maybe Xena should have sex with Meg. So
I'm sure there's a fic.
So now you want
Xena Leah and Xena
yes,
Meg.
you want her to defile Leah
No,
and
it
get
wouldn't be like
schooled
that.
in the bedroom by Meg.
I'm a little worried about Meg's alcoholism, though, this episode. She's
Oh.
doing a lot of drinking.
How much drinking? Just that one time. You're assuming
she
finished
drinks a
off
whole
the entire bottle?
finishes it, and then goes looking for more.
Oh, no.
That's
she's
what she
polishing
does.
off the sacrificial wine.
Because she's so bored. That's all
I
she
didn't
has
realize
to do.
that she had finished that bottle that she stuck her finger in.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
no.
And the drinky dance, is as cute as it is kind of like the dance of someone.
Yeah.
That's all they got going on.
She leads a tough life. She's a really tragic character.
Yeah.
I agree. This episode has a little less of the tragic underpinnings of Meg, but it is.
I mean, it's
definitely
tragic
there.
when you take the
Yeah.
previous one and you,
Yeah.
like, combine them.
Yeah.
And then you say things like, I'm worried about her drinking. Which, you know, before you said that, I was like, remember when it was so funny that she was polishing off that wine?
And I was like, no.
Oh, no. Now I'm like, oh, no, Meg.
So while she's all drunk and kind of on her own in the temple, she comes across Bailey. And just kind of by accident, like, she doesn't realize that Bailey's evil and lets the cat out of the bag that
Yeah.
Leah's hiding at the tavern. And she is going to feel really bad about that later.
Yeah.
And is that when Bailey lets the cat out of the bag about himself, being like, oh, perfect.
Well, I think, yeah, he spins around and then just for our benefit is like, men who are evil, go to the temple and kill Leah, you know? So, yeah. Thanks for that episode.
Yeah.
We didn't figure it out otherwise.
Meanwhile, Xena, who is pretending to be Leah, is caught in a daily confession that the Hestian virgins have to undergo. Like, she
Yeah.
tries to get out of it, but the
can't.
virgins are like, no, this happens.
You
like
have to
every-
do
you
it
have
at
to do
this
it."
time
Yeah.
every day.
So she's kind of like goes behind the curtain to listen to the first virgin do her confession, which is about the garden and the temptations of the garden. And I'm not talking apples. I'm talking squash. Specifically.
Summer squash. Kids, we missed the first masturbation joke in this episode, of which this episode is full
so
of.
good, that first one.
And
How dare we?
So let's just go back in time a little
rewind
bit to
the tape.
recap.
Rewind the tape.
Gabrielle, when she's making Leah over, they're out by like a river or whatever in the woods. And so what does Leah say?
Leah
to
is
her?
going through the rules for being a Hestian virgin. Rule number 1, know thyself. Rule number 2, whatever. She literally never completes that sentence, so I'm just going to assume it's whatever.
And then Gabrielle's response is, if I had to go the rest of my life without companionship, knowing myself won't be a problem.
Ba-dum-bum.
Yay!
That is a great masturbation joke.
It's
And I
so
love
good.
that it's Cavs who says it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so great. I love it so much. So now we are in the summer squash story.
Yeah.
This poor virgin can never enjoy a salad ever again without
Yeah.
feeling guilty.
Absolutely.
I do love the way this was done because you have her on the one side and then Xena fighting people on the other side and just being like, yeah, keep talking, keep talking.
It was a really great gag. Probably like my favorite of this whole episode.
Yeah.
I also recommend, if you're watching this episode on Hulu, turn on the subtitles for some extra lines about
you
the
get
squash.
You get the
Yeah.
whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because without the subtitles and how they aired it, it's you hear the sounds of the fight, and then
Yeah.
once in a while she's like, "Are you listening?"
At least that's how it is on Hulu.
Yes. But if you turn this, for some reason, the subtitles like kept the script.
Yeah.
You know.
So maybe the censors were like, no, don't put too many suggestive lines about that squash. But they're there. They're still there.
Oh, of
So
course. Like the next
good.
best one, which is Xena's advice as Leah to this poor Hestian virgin that sometimes it's best to take matters into your own hands.
I love
True
me.
indeed.
Sing the Haley Steinfeld song, everyone.
I
Oh,
love me.
no.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
actually know it.
Yeah. So
I said we shouldn't actually sing it, but
too bad.
like
That's all we know.
pretend
I love
that
me.
I don't need anybody else.
Love
Yeah.
Myself is playing in the background.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Yeah.
That sucks. I'm the one who wants to sing all the time, but I don't know any songs. It's a
Except
problem.
for I'm on a boat.
I'm on a boat and Be More Gay, my
Yeah,
two songs.
Yeah.
One of them's an original.
Yay.
My favorite part of that is after she says that, the virgin runs over to the two other virgins, kind of like waiting to do the confession, and reveals what, she said, very happy, as if like they all have been fucking with the squash.
I'm sure they have.
Yeah. So that's great.
And they all want some advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we cut back to the tavern where Leah is wandering around,
Being scandalized
by everything, just opening up room after room down this hallway.
The room with the petting zoo.
Please let that be a petting zoo.
Quote unquote. Yeah.
That's not great, Bob.
That poor sheep.
Well, then Gabrielle gives her some advice, which is that she should make the best of it. If she finds herself in this tavern, she should be trying to spread her religion to
Well, okay.
to the people there, which I don't know what that's really great advice, but it certainly makes Leah a happier camper.
Yeah. So this is our second musical number?
Yeah, it is.
She does like a religious choir type of situation.
They're singing Onward Christian Soldiers, except it's Onward Virgin Soldiers.
So all three of our Xena lookalikes end up together in a room, because you have to do that. Gag.
Of course. And they're all wearing the priestess outfit again.
And
Leah has just found one in the role play closet in the tavern, which was a weird detail, but I guess makes
totally
sense.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That the temple's down the street.
Yeah,
Of course
everybody
you would play
wants
that.
the Hestian Virgin role play.
Yeah. And Gabrielle has to guess who the real Xena is.
She's very good at it. There's pick about this. Right? There has to be.
Well, didn't we do this? Or no, the audience had to guess who it was in the last time we did this with Diana.
Right. Guess which one I am.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I like that Gabrielle had to do it here.
I was a little fooled at an earlier point in this episode where you think Meg might be the person in the scene, but it's actually Xena pretending to be Meg. Xena's Meg impression is pretty good.
Yeah.
We were talking about how bad Jet and Joxer are at being each other. Xena is a talented actress. She does a decent job of tricking us, the audience.
I don't remember, but in the last one, did she have to pretend to be Meg?
I think she did, but she didn't quite have it.
Okay, so she's
down
been
yet.
working on
I think
it.
she's been working on it.
Okay.
It's not perfect. Like if you watch it knowing that this isn't Meg, you'll see hints, mostly just the fact that Xena's, thinking so hard about what to do throughout the scene. You just see her the wheels turning. But it's decent. Yeah. I was tricked for a few minutes.
Yeah, I think I was too.
But Gabrielle doesn't have that problem.
Our baddie for the episode, Bailey, has kidnapped Joxer, and he's using him against Meg. He needs Meg to read this proclamation at the ceremony, and the virgins would then, die, I guess.
They're going to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yep.
Yes, that's right.
It's a really elaborate plan. I don't really get it. He needs an imposter who he can control, which means Meg.
Mm-hmm.
He needs her to read in Hestian, right?
Yeah.
Would she even be able to do that?
Well, he just wants her to read what's on the paper.
I thought she was illiterate.
That's what I mean.
But she was going to learn so that she could write Gabrielle letters.
Right. So I guess it means that she did, which is great.
Yeah, we're really happy for her.
But still, Hestian, that's a different language.
Presumably.
She would.
Because this guy doesn't know it.
No, he doesn't. Yeah. And only Leah knows how to read it.
He doesn't know that Meg doesn't know how to read. Also, he doesn't know that this is Leah, so it doesn't matter in the
he
first
really
place.
doesn't know anything about what's going on in this episode.
It matters in the sense that I'm, concerned about whether Meg has learned to read or not since the last time we saw her. So it would be really great if she did,
Yeah. But anyway, this is, I think, the best Lucy in this episode. Leah being Meg being Leah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. That's so many levels.
Yeah. She's handing out the Kool-Aid
She's
little
doing
cups.
she still has her speech impediment, but it's not a great Meg impression, but it at least
But it's
tricks
Leah
this guy.
being Meg,
Yeah.
who can't number one, has her speech impediment. Number two, isn't a good actress like Xena, so is not doing like the best Meg. Like,
And
it's
of
just,
course, it has
and you
to
see
be
all
this
of it.
woman who, you know, is a quote unquote tramp. So of course, Leah having to do this really opens up her mind to the experiences of other women.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, one of the three Xenas is trying to get into the temple all sneaky. They take this woman hostage at the gate, thinking she must be the actual Leah.
Yeah,
trying to get back to the temple.
Yeah.
But we, the audience, know it can't be Leah because she's making so many whooshing noises.
Oh, no.
She's just like whoosh, 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 like every step up to the gate, and they're like, Leah, and we're like, no.
No, only one woman legitimately makes whooshes. Yeah,
So they take her hostage, thinking she's Leah. Meanwhile, of course, we know Leah is actually there performing the ceremony. Meg is hanging out, waiting to beat somebody up.
Is this where Joxer's in the dungeon playing 6 Degrees?
Yes, he invents 6 degrees.
Yeah.
Except with a guy named Philip Dippies.
Which is weird, because I feel like it should have been like 6 Degrees of Hercules or something. So that
I like that it's a guy you've never heard of.
just like Kevin
Just
Bacon.
like Kevin Bacon. Yeah, that also leads into this joke where Joxer, one of the Xenas comes down and Joxer is trying to mansplain to her.
Oh
The one who
God.
was taken hostage at the gate. He's like trying to be like, this is how escaping works, Leah. It's so easy. Any idiot can do it. And by this point, Xena has unlocked the cage and is just like, come on, idiot. And he says, hi, Xena. That same running gag. This is not a good episode for Joxer.
No.
So back with the ceremony, the virgins all drink their Kool-Aid, and it's like really upsetting because she reads the proclamation
Yeah,
and
it's all happening.
yeah, did she throw the stone? Like, is that part of it still here?
No, I don't think
that was
so.
like the previous scene, whatever.
Yeah.
The stones were important in this episode.
You're
And
into the stones.
because I was like, ooh, the Hestian stones that tell Hestia's voice, you know, her like will. That's interesting. And they all fall over and they're dead.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, we are very worried.
No. And you know, the
Yeah.
episode is still working a little bit to try to trick you into thinking this is Leah. That this is Meg.
Yeah.
She like reacts being like, oh no, I killed some people.
Yeah.
But really it's Leah.
And and what Bailey is like, see this? Hestia did this.
she's the word. Follow Delos, which is a place, but okay.
Hestianism is dead. Delianism is like the cool new religion. But then the ladies all get up.
And spit out their Kool-Aid.
Synchronous spitting of Kool-Aid.
And it turns out that Leah has told them in the Hestian language not to swallow.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Oh, no.
Gross.
Yeah, he was like, you told them not to swallow.
Actually coming from Leah. What?
Oh.
Gasp.
Yeah, and then Xena fights Bailey.
This is fun because Leah gets it on it.
Yeah.
Too, and punches out Bailey. And Xena's all like, gasp, Leah, what would Hestia say?
I forget what you would say.
I think it's like, nicely done.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
I'm British again.
Isn't this like a running thing? Like, didn't Diana also get, you know, the final punch against
I think
her
so.
baddie?
This is what happens in these episodes when you have the more sheltered Xena clone having to be Xena's. Her horizons get a lot wider. So Leah realizes sometimes sex is good and sometimes violence is important. And yeah.
Meg and Joxer make up in this one because, you know, even though she heard him say that she's been around the block a few times and punched him in the face, he did try to like heroically rescue her. So she's like, great, you know, I still love you, Joxer. So they're still OTP.
We also didn't talk about the way Meg made up for her betrayal to Bailey, her inadvertent betrayal, that she pretends to be Leah when she sees all the goons coming and then fights off some goons.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually a really heroic moment for Meg. It's Meg's big moment of the episode. A reminder that she is, you know, a really great heroic character in her own way. And she does the right thing.
Yes. And also props to the ladies of the tavern who took care of a lot of soldiers.
That's
and
right.
Took them out of the
Onward,
game.
virgin soldiers.
Yeah.
The tavern ladies win the day.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they did a lot of work.
MVPs.
So our final beat of this episode is about the subtext, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
What does Leah say to them?
Well, she's apologizing for like misjudging everyone, and she's learned a whole bunch via all of these experiences in this episode. But then it kind of leans down and looks at Gabrielle and is like, I still think you'd make a great virgin. And then it ends on Xena's face smirking.
Well, it's just like the camera kind of pans down a
Yeah.
line of people in front of Leah. You have Meg kind of throwing these flirtatious looks at Joxer, like, yeah, get a load of this virgin, Joxer. But Joxer, meanwhile, is looking at Gabrielle, and Gabrielle is looking at Xena. So you have this kind of, like, eye sex, but, like, always unrequited.
Yeah.
Except, presumably, for Gaz and Xena there
Right.
at the end.
Definitely requited. Yeah, and I was so grumpy. I had so many grumpy notes about the lack of subtext, and then the end I was like, oh, what was that? And then now that we have had that discussion where we have decided what that earlier line about Gabrielle's virginity was about,
Yeah.
I am cool. I'm no longer so as angry as I was.
Yeah, I mean,
Still
that
could have
final...
been more in the episode. Because whenever you
Yeah.
have an episode that is kind of about, you know, let's be more relaxed about sex. Like, it's
Some missed opportunity
it's
for
odd
subtext.
to not include that. Yeah.
Personally, I didn't really feel like it was missing because it was... A lot of it was about, yes, their virginities, like the actual, like, losing of who they lost it to or whatever. But then it was, like, about sex in general. So it's like... You take that as you will,
Right,
you know.
that's true.
And certainly that
And
last
we definitely
beat
understand
was
that
definitely
to
about
Leah's
yeah.
eyes throughout, that
Yeah.
she is scandalized by
Yeah.
the lifestyle of Gabrielle and Cena, and you can choose to see that however you want.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, but that last beat was definitely like you can't not
No,
see
yeah.
that.
Absolutely.
Cena does not think Gabrielle would make a great virgin.
No,
yeah,
she does not.
exactly. So that was that. Is that the last like clone one?
Yeah, it is. I mean, of this
Interesting.
name scheme. I mean,
Yeah.
Meg will reappear a little bit.
But they never do one of these again.
But they don't do these
which is a
again.
bummer.
I wonder if they felt they'd kind of maxed out the possibilities of it. You know, how many different like versions of womanhood
man.
can Lucy do?
Season 6 should have had 6 Xena clones.
Oh my god! I mean, it's
Yeah.
true. Just because, just
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll miss it. I do think this genre has always been like this show's comedy at its strongest because
Yeah.
it isn't just relying on mistaken identity the way the Joxer episode is. Like, you feel like it actually has something to say. All of
Yeah.
these different women that
Yeah.
Lucy is playing.
Yeah, I'll miss it too. But I loved, I liked what we saw.
I remember long ago we talked about Warrior Princess, which was like late first season. And that was really the episode where Lucy got to loosen up, like for the very first time, was like getting to kind of do something else. Like, and it's funny that here we are mid season 3 and she's like, she's loose. Like she has really expanded
The
like
loose is loose.
what Xena as a character can do, and has played all these different versions, and at this point like this goofball list thing, you're just like, cool, whatever. So I wonder if maybe they felt like, okay, like we've made our argument, Lucy can do everything, like Xena can be ridiculous even, like that's fine. Now that we've proved that Xena herself has all this range dramatically and comedically, we don't need this device anymore of Lucy playing these other people. That's my take.
I mean, that's kind of like sad because to me and maybe the audience, it's not really like a device. It's just like a great playing field for Lucy to do the stuff she does best, which is drama and comedy, I don't know. I like
I mean,
all
Meg
the
is an amazing
characters.
character.
Meg will be back.
Meg will be back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it won't quite be in the same context of the mistaken identity, which is good. I mean,
And
how
there's-
often can you really do it?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to
Yeah.
say. Like
Once
they've done it 3
every
times.
season.
Like, I don't know. I feel like when you start doing it too much, then you're like, ugh, they do all those episodes and the rest of them start to feel like less interesting or special, because if they kept doing it.
Or you look forward to it. Yay, it's their Xena Clones episode that they film first every season. So yeah. But anyway.
I look forward to Meg coming back.
Yeah, this is the episode here, and thankfully we do get Meg again. Yeah. Is there anything else to say about this?
Pretty weird. Middle of the rift.
So much innuendo.
Laugh it up with some sex comedy and whatever you want to call King of Assassins.
Just...
Is Meg the best of the clones?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
100%.
Yeah. Of course.
Cool.
Oh, I did like you mentioned, obviously, again, how we were in the middle of the rift. I saw like some posts that were fun and like just trying to make it work.
Oh my god!
With the narrative.
Okay, let's hear. How do you do that?
I mean, I didn't get into specifics, but it was just more like, well, you can see like maybe they're like distant in these episodes because in the first episode they don't have any scenes together.
Yeah,
in the second
Xena's
one, she's gone. They're like she's doing the testing and they're not really interacting as much as usual, but it doesn't really work for me. You have to like really bend your brain. Like, the first one, she's like hero worshipping Xena and trying to be Xena so intensely. And then in this one, so when they are together, they're being silly about, the Xena clones and stuff. So I don't know, it just doesn't really.
Yeah. It isn't there. And, it's frustrating. You are like, like maternal instinct should happen now so that we can continue to tell the story that we've been telling.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the other hand, it's kind of nice to blow off steam with these episodes. It's nice to kind of feel like, is it coming yet? Like, is the other shoe gonna drop? Oh, not yet. Another comedy episode. Okay.
Yeah. Before we sign off, I do have to confess because we watched the episodes in full and did our research and notes and stuff, and then I went to like go just right before we started to record. I'm like, I gotta refresh. Gonna like just go through a little bit. Fired up Hulu. And we ended up watching One Against an Army instead.
Oh, hey!
It was right there.
You are cheating on the podcast.
And I was like, oh, let me just... And I did do my refreshing as well for this one, but it was right there, and I just like clicked on that one too. Because, oh man, we are really close to some powerful episodes.
Yeah.
But there's 3 comedies in between.
Well, we did 2 of them, so...
Yeah.
Stay tuned for next week.
Yeah. Well, it's a fun one.
It is.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so that wraps it up. You can follow us on the stuff and things.
Yeah, all the stuff and things, everybody. Please come check us out, XenaWarriorPodcast.com. You can listen to episodes there. And we are on Apple Podcasts, where you can subscribe, rate, and leave reviews. Follow us on all the social medias, whatever your favorite one is. We are there. We are doing stuff. We're on Tumblr. It's more GIFs and Twitter, talking about stuff, and Facebook, all the places. And you can always, always, always please contact us there. Send us more, anytime you have questions or comments, like for sure, we always would love to hear from you. And on the website, there's our, contact page with our email. So yeah, send us your thoughts and things. Cool.
The power.
The passion.
The podcast!